Chapter 9: The Altcoin Boom. Since 2009, Bitcoin has followed a very consistent cycle of booms and busts. The first big bubble occurred in mid-2011 when the price rapidly increased all the way to $32, having started out at 5 cents. The bubble burst and the price collapsed down to $2, with many people convinced that this was the end of cryptocurrency. However, the price recovered with the reward halving in late 2012 and bubbled up again, this time to $255 in April 2013, only to collapse once again, hitting a low of $55 almost overnight. By the end of the year, it was touching new all-time highs, and by early December, it broke the $1,000 mark, reaching as high as $1,160 before collapsing yet again, declining all the way through 2014 until it struck a bottom at about $200 in early 2015. The bubble in 2017 was again precipitated by a reward halving the year before, and the price attained a record of $19,500 before collapsing yet again. It's this boom and bust cycle that happens again and again that converts casual investors to true believers, as there is nothing quite like seeing an investment gain 1,000% within a month, then witness the price lose 85% of that gain, only to see another 10,000% a few years later. That roller coaster is the major impetus for converting hodlers. However, 2017 was different. Previous bubbles hadn't occurred with the background of rising fees that sowed seeds of doubt among investors, old and new. Transaction fees reached all-time highs, with single-input wallet transactions averaging $55, while there were certain multi-input, multi-output transactions, batch transactions, that were visible on the blockchain that cost as much as $6,000. In tandem with this incredible rise in fees affecting the general usability of Bitcoin, it lost considerable market share to altcoins. This meant that while Bitcoin itself saw tremendous gains in 2017, these gains paled in comparison to the gains seen by many of its competitors, and Bitcoin's dominance of the market shrunk from about 95% market share at the end of 2013 to about 32% market share during the early stages of 2018. In fact, there were many days in 2017 when it seemed that either Ethereum or Ripple or Bitcoin Cash were poised to overtake Bitcoin in terms of market capitalization to become the new dominant coin for the sector. The problem is that although Bitcoin has theoretically got a scaling solution in the form of the Lightning Network waiting in the wings, it is still very much an unproven technology. The developers themselves still insist that users should only commit the bare minimum of funds while they test it in beta on the mainnet, the actual Bitcoin blockchain, rather than the testnet, a test network infrastructure that is used for experimentation. This is because it is still very possible that the coins could be lost in a transaction error. Thus, with the current on-chain transaction limit maxed out at 7 transactions per minute, or maybe around double that for SegWit Bitcoin, for new investors wanting to invest, Bitcoin is no better than a high-risk ICO with a comprehensive white paper that proclaims a lot of promises. While in the past it was very easy to just show new investors a Bitcoin transaction in the wild that just worked and immediately proved how amazing the network actually was, in this new environment, new investors are required to take a more uncertain leap of faith in the hope that the core team knows what they are doing and will be able to overcome the at times seemingly insurmountable problems faced by the network. One must also recognize the highly competitive alternatives that are already live that may possibly give Bitcoin a run for its money. Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Ripple all have features that Bitcoin cannot accommodate in its present form. In the case of Bitcoin Cash, on May 15, 2018, it underwent another hard fork that increased the block size again from 8 megabytes to 32 megabytes. What this effectively meant in real terms was that Bitcoin Cash could already handle almost 32 times the transaction data that pre-SegWit Bitcoin could. As a reference for comparison, since the implementation of SegWit, the largest block size Bitcoin has been able to process was 1.4 megabytes on the 27th of January 2018. As SegWit adoption increases, this number can conceivably increase to as much as 2 megabytes. In practical terms, this means that instead of 7 or even 14 transactions per second, Bitcoin Cash has a capacity for 144 transactions per second in its current state, in comparison to the 193 transactions per second, 450 transactions per second peak that PayPal currently processes. Visa, by comparison, processes 2,000 transactions per second and has a peak capacity for 56,000 transactions per second. Thus, for the time being, until bandwidth limitations are solved in the future, the currency has some runway to keep growing user numbers. Its capacity is also reflected in merchant adoption statistics. Bitcoin merchant adoption actually went into reverse in 2017 as transaction fees increased and ordinary merchants found it impossible to use in a practical sense. Bitcoin Cash merchant adoption has conversely been increasing, although transaction levels lag behind Bitcoin. Ethereum really took off in 2017 and by mid-May looked certain to take over the cryptocurrency crown as investors were attracted by the faster 15-second block times and the extra functionality that created an infrastructure for launching ICOs to the general public. However, it wasn't meant to be. The currency stagnated its ascent, and just like Bitcoin, mining fees skyrocketed as the protocol became the platform of choice for ICOs, with daily transactions overtaking Bitcoin in early June 2017. In December 2017, CryptoKitties, a Pokemon-like collectible trading game that had been launched on top of Ethereum, became a craze, and traffic on the network increased sixfold. Miners had to respond by increasing the transaction fee limit to allow more data per block, and thus more transactions per second, as the prices for certain rarer collectible kitties spiked past $100,000 each. Traffic settled down, but Ethereum maintained its lead over Bitcoin in transactions per day and currently sees more than 4 times the traffic congestion of the Bitcoin network. The Ethereum roadmap eventually points Ethereum away from proof of work and onto proof of stake algorithms that are intended to replace the mining process in the future. Ethereum also has more capacity in comparison to Bitcoin, which maxes out at 400,000 transactions per day in its current state. This also means it can maintain lower fees than Bitcoin, although recently this hasn't been the case, as its transactions far exceed those of Bitcoin. Another contender for supremacy in the cryptocurrency space is Litecoin. Litecoin is almost identical to the current iteration of Bitcoin in that it has the same block size and has adopted SegWit earlier than Bitcoin in fact, and was developed on the same codebase that is the foundation for Bitcoin. However, the major difference compared to Bitcoin is that Litecoin has a much shorter block time, with a block being created every 2 minutes and 30 seconds. As a result, this makes the transaction capacity of Litecoin 4 times higher than Bitcoin, with consequently lower fees. However, many crypto enthusiasts are quite suspicious of Charlie Lee, the founder of the protocol, who mysteriously declared in January 2018 that, as its chief steward, he now had a conflict of interest in owning Litecoin and that he'd sold all his Litecoin in the preceding days at what later turned out to be a close to all-time high price for the asset. Given that he is an ardent supporter of Bitcoin, the Lightning Network, and anti-SegWit 2x, his motivations remain unclear. XRP, the cryptocurrency of the Ripple network, is also in the top cryptocurrency rankings, but many people in the cryptocurrency community remain suspicious of its centralized nature and even doubt whether it qualifies as a cryptocurrency. Originally, it was designed as a replacement for the SWIFT network that facilitates the transfer of currency between banks internationally. Generally, in the cryptocurrency community, the reason for XRP being criticized for being overly centralized is because 81% of the XRP market cap is held in just 100 addresses, and by default, clients connect to 1 to 16 validator nodes operated by the company itself. There are 55 in total, and all are operated by Ripple, the company, or its corporate partners. In comparison, Ethereum has over 29,000 nodes that are mostly independent. Also, more than 90% of Ripple clients are built on the same codebase. It is pre-mined, so there is no proof of work, and more than 50% of the voting power is controlled by one entity. Ripple also predominantly markets XRP to banking institutions and corporations, so many in the cryptocurrency community don't view XRP as a real cryptocurrency. This view is reinforced by the fact that Ripple gateways can freeze the XRP they have issued if suspicious activity is suspected. This feature can be interpreted as going against the original vision of Satoshi Nakamoto of a decentralized currency that couldn't be controlled by third parties. Furthermore, because all the node validators are selected by Ripple, many critics doubt how battle-tested the protocol is in relation to bad actors, given that these validator node operators are presumably always following the protocol rules and not being malicious. On the positive side, XRP's centralized nature means that payments are instantaneous and considerably cheaper than Bitcoin's. XRP really proved itself as a potential threat to Bitcoin's dominance on the 5th of January 2018 when it surged considerably, momentarily overtaking Ethereum to become the second largest cryptocurrency by market cap and attaining 17% of the market, within striking distance of Bitcoin's 33% market share on the same day. Unfortunately for XRP, it turned out to be an anomaly, and just like Ethereum, it slinked back as the whole altcoin market subsequently collapsed. 2017 also saw the emergence into the spotlight of a number of altcoins that utilize the directed acyclic graph DAG technology like IOTA, Byteball, and Nano. The interesting thing about this technology is how it distributes the proof of work to the users, eliminating the need for miners and mining fees. In order to send a transaction on the Nano network, a user must first process 2 transactions from other users and perform a small amount of proof of work on just those transactions. This makes it free to send transactions and prevents the massive amount of computing and electricity consumption that gives blockchains a bad reputation for environmental sustainability. Another development in the altcoin arena has been privacy coins, most notably Monero and Zcash. The major differentiating factor of the privacy coins builds on Bitcoin's pseudonymous nature and creates true anonymity on the blockchain. Bitcoin's public blockchain makes it possible to make certain guesstimates about a particular address's transactions and counterparty identities, but Monero and Zcash have developed technology that obfuscates this information. At the same time, digitized asset platforms are also evolving. Ethereum may be viewed as the Bitcoin of tokenization, but it faces a lot of up-and-comers like Cardano, EOS, NEM, and Neo, who are seeking to displace it as the platform of choice for tokenizing digital and physical assets. Cardano, ADA, is yet another variation on the blockchain structure that allows for multiple blockchains in the same network, which enhances the possibilities for scalability. Thus, the cryptocurrency community is focusing on many different solutions and methodologies to create the next generation of cryptocurrencies that aim to take over from where Bitcoin and Ethereum currently are. For cryptocurrency investors, this makes for a highly convoluted marketplace that is considerably more complex than the empty stage onto which Bitcoin appeared in 2009. Back in the early days, it was simply a matter of buying Bitcoin and hodling to make out-of-this-world returns on investment. Ethereum's rapid rise proved that we are no longer in a unipolar cryptocurrency market, and investors need to be wary of many other factors in deciding what currencies they need to put in their cryptocurrency portfolios. However, just because a cryptocurrency makes incredible claims in their white paper, it isn't necessarily true that they will be able to fulfill on whatever concept or idea they have thought up. Thus, investors and adopters have to perform adequate due diligence to understand where the rubber hits the road for a particular altcoin. This due diligence means analyzing the many different factors that contribute to the successful adoption of a cryptocurrency in the future, and also analyzing the current state of the altcoin and how popular it actually is. The investors have to ask themselves numerous questions about the altcoin. How active is the altcoin's GitHub code repository where the open source code is developed? How many developers are actively involved in development? Are the founders known? And what previous projects have they worked on? How many transactions are currently occurring on the network every second? How big and active are the online community groups? Their Telegram chat group, their official Twitter feed, their Reddit forum? What is the currency supply? Was it pre-mined? And how many coins are hoarded by insiders? How decentralized is the code, governance, and mining? Does it actually work when you experiment with sending transactions? Many investors are blind on this last point, as they often don't even experiment by transacting with the currency and taking it off the exchange and into their own offline wallet. The truth is that there is so much misinformation, scams, and pump and dump schemes that the investor has to be so careful in this Wild West environment. It also needs to be recognized that most of the technology is open source and very little technology is patented. So provided that a community for coin A can develop consensus on adopting a new technology that's introduced on another coin, coin B, it is completely possible for coin A to poach the technology of coin B. Of course, however, the Bitcoin and Ethereum forks proved that achieving this consensus is by no means straightforward, but it is possible. This evolutionary possibility goes completely against any of the capitalist ideas of competition that we're used to in the modern world, and it makes for a much more rapid adoption of new technological breakthroughs. Thus, as soon as one coin develops a viable solution to scaling that can be proven to work in the wild, it's more than likely that the entire ecosystem may be able to replicate that same development. Of course, it is possible that the architectural differences between the two networks may be too fundamentally different to facilitate technological replication, but in many cases, like the Lightning Network, advances that work out may rapidly migrate to other coins also. Cryptocurrency evolution in a lot of ways resembles the tree of life in that there are many forks along the way in that journey that life took on Earth, from being limited to single-cell organisms all the way to becoming the sophisticated, complex animals we Homo sapiens are today. Of course, the major difference being that, as mentioned in the previous paragraph, unlike the tree of life, on the cryptocurrency tree of life, cryptocurrencies have the ability to cross-pollinate with other species, meaning that breakthrough advances by any cryptocurrency can be good for the entire ecosystem as a whole. The bubble of 2017 was a validation of this multipolar hypothesis. However, it is obvious that the market got way ahead of itself in assigning insane valuations to unproven protocols that in no way deserved such support so early in their existence. For example, Cardano exploded from a market capitalization of zero on the 2nd of October 2017 to a $33 billion market cap by the 4th of January 2018, while its network was only experiencing a few transactions every hour. The market capitalization of Tesla, by comparison, was trading at $55 billion at the same time on the Nasdaq, which itself was widely recognized as an excessive valuation at the time. Cardano's crazy valuation was completely out of sync even with Bitcoin, which was experiencing over 350,000 transactions on the 20th of May 2017 when it first passed the US $33 billion market cap milestone. Cardano's transaction activity, 500 transactions per day, didn't even compare to Bitcoin's 7,000 transactions per day when it surpassed the $1 billion market cap milestone on the 31st of March 2013. Thus, there was nowhere for this bubble to go but down when Cardano's market cap collapsed to less than $1 billion by the 30th of January 2019. No wonder, as I mentioned before, many times during the 2017 to 2018 bubble, it felt like I'd stumbled upon the world's biggest online casino gambling den, with each individual currency acting more like a different themed gaming table rather than a serious investment strategy. When investing starts to resemble gambling, it's a good indication that the market has peaked for the moment and it's a good time to get out. Nevertheless, there is still a lot of revolutionary technology being developed in the cryptocurrency ecosystem that deserves the attention of serious investors, but this newly convoluted marketplace requires a hedging strategy if new investors are to have any chance of capturing future gains in this space. Practically, this means holding a wide variety of the top 20 cryptocurrencies and constantly rebalancing one's portfolio depending on market movements, or investing in a cryptocurrency investment fund or investment fund ICO that performs the same function. That way, it's possible to capture any major market moves in the market and not miss out when an outsider suddenly surges into the winner's circle like Ethereum succeeded in achieving. Do your own due diligence, as this book is by no means a form of financial advice as is stipulated in the disclaimer at the start of the book. Just as Facebook seemed to emerge out of nowhere to make MySpace irrelevant, the cryptocurrency space will likely be unrecognizable in 5 to 10 years' time. Next episode of WTF is Bitcoin, the Cryptocurrency and Blockchain Guide for Dinner Parties, we'll be reading Chapter 10, securitization, and will focus on the concept of using blockchain to represent non-digital assets and the real-world implications for markets. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and share this podcast with anyone you think will enjoy it. It really helps us reach a much larger audience.